The key didn't fit the door to my house after my vacation. A shocking betrayal by my own daughter. What happened? I asked, and she shouted, "This is our house now, you old bum." Her husband laughed into the phone. "We'll sell it and pay off my debts." I smiled calmly, ended the conversation, and wrote to my lawyer. Our plan worked. A few minutes later, they started to panic. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The key slid into the lock, turned halfway, then stopped. I pulled it out, examined the brass teeth under the fading afternoon light, then tried again. Same resistance, like the metal inside had been replaced with something that didn't recognize what I was holding, which it had been. I stepped back from the front door of my house. Correction, what used to be my house, and studied the lock mechanism, different brand, Schlide, instead of Quickset. Someone had gone to the hardware store, purchased new deadbolts, and spent an hour installing them while I was supposedly catching base at Lake Conroe. The fishing trip had been deliberate, 7 days away, long enough for desperation to override caution. I walked along the stone pathway toward the side gate, my boots scraping against pebbles I'd laid down myself 15 years ago. The combination lock on the gate still opened, with the code I'd set when Lucretia was in college, her birthday backwards. Some things they hadn't thought to change. The backyard looked exactly as I'd left it. The oak tree I planted the day she was born stood in the corner, its February branches bare and skeletal. I crossed the patchy winter grass to the back door, and tried my key there too. New lock. Same story. Through the kitchen window, I could see the granite countertops I'd saved 2 years to install. The curtains in the upstairs bedroom shifted slightly. Someone was home, moving around in rooms where I'd lived for 32 years. I walked back to my pickup truck and sat in the driver's seat. The leather was still warm from the drive back from the lake. My phone sat in the cup holder where I'd placed it that morning, screen dark and patient. 3 months ago, I'd downloaded a recording app, simple interface. Red button to start, black button to stop. I'd never needed it as an assistant district attorney. The interrogation rooms had their own systems, but retirement meant handling my own evidence collection. I opened the app, pressed record, then dialed Lucretia's number, put it on speaker, set the phone on the dashboard where the microphone would catch everything cleanly. She answered on the third ring. "What do you want?" Not, "Hi Dad," or "How was your trip?" Just cold irritation, like I was a telemarketer interrupting her dinner. "Lucia, my key doesn't work." "What happened to the locks?" A pause. Then her voice came back sharper, almost triumphant. "Those aren't your locks anymore, Dad. This is our house now. Mine and Edwin. You should find somewhere else to stay, old man. Maybe a shelter for the homeless would take you." I heard shuffling. Then Edwin's voice crashed through the speaker, louder and more aggressive than I'd ever heard it. "Yeah, listen up, Granville. We own this place now. Got all the paperwork done, legal and everything. We're selling it next week. Going to clear my $340,000 in debts. You had your time living comfortable. Now it's our turn. 340,000. He actually said it out loud, confirmed the exact figure I'd suspected. "I see." I kept my voice level, almost pleasant. "Will you two enjoy your evening then?" I ended the call, played back the last 10 seconds. Edwin's voice came through perfectly. The desperation, the specific dollar amount, the admission of ownership claims, crystal clear. I opened my email, attached the audio file to a message I drafted weeks ago, added 3 words, "Our plan worked," sent it to Margaret Chen's address. The file was 47 seconds long, long enough. I started the truck, backed out of the driveway without looking at the house again, and drove toward downtown Houston. The evening traffic was light for a Friday. I took Woodway to 610, then exited on West Dallas. 25 minutes later, I parked outside a modest apartment complex in Midtown. Nothing fancy. Brick exterior, exterior staircases, the kind of place where people minded their own business. I'd rented apartment 2 months ago, paid 6 months up front in cash, listed my name as the sole tenant. I climbed the stairs, carrying only my fishing gear bag. The key to 2F worked perfectly. Inside, the furnished space smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. One bedroom, galley kitchen. Living room barely large enough for a couch and television. On the kitchen table sat a thick manila folder. I dropped my bag by the door, pulled out one of the two chairs, and sat down. The folder's tab read, Moreno evidence file in my own handwriting. I opened it slowly. Everything I'd gathered over 3 months lay inside, organized chronologically like a prosecutor's case file, because that's exactly what it was. And now the defendants had just provided their confession. I spread the folder's contents across the small table, a yellow legal pad filled with dated observations starting November 12th, a flash drive labeled security footage, kitchen in black marker, bank statements showing transfers I'd made in January, Margaret Chen's business card with her cell number written on the back, a thin stack of photographs showing Edwin's silver Lexus parked outside my house at strange hours. Midnight on a Tuesday, 6 in the morning on a Thursday, the kind of hours that suggested someone was watching me, learning my patterns, waiting for an opening. 3 months ago, I'd noticed the shift in Lucretia's behavior. She started visiting more frequently, always with questions that seemed casual, but weren't. We'd be sitting at the dining room table, and she'd ask about my will, my estate planning, whether I'd organized my financial documents. Edwin would stand near the fireplace, pretending to admire the family photos, while his eyes tracked every word. During one November visit, I'd caught him measuring the living room walls with a tape measure. Just thinking about renovation ideas, he'd said, grinning, this place has so much potential. Then he'd pulled out his phone and photographed every room, the crown molding, the hardwood floors, the updated kitchen appliances, taking inventory. I'd smiled and offered him coffee. Inside, something clicked into place. The prosecutor's instinct I'd relied on for 35 years started cataloging evidence. 1 month ago, I'd set the trap. I printed a power of attorney template from a legal website, the kind that grants someone authority to sell property on your behalf, left the signature line blank, placed it in a manila envelope along with my house deed. On a Sunday afternoon in early January, I positioned both documents prominently on the kitchen table before Lucretia and Edwin arrived for our scheduled 3 o'clock dinner. At 3:45, I excused myself to the bathroom, stayed there 15 minutes, running the water occasionally, giving them time and opportunity. When I returned, the document sat in the same spot, but the envelope's corner was bent slightly different. The deed had been rotated maybe 2 degrees. That night, I opened the security app on my phone, the camera I'd installed in October, a wireless unit disguised as a book spine on my study shelf, had a perfect angle on the kitchen table. I selected January 12th, fast-forwarded to 3:47. Edwin glanced toward the hallway where I disappeared, looked at Lucretia. She nodded once. He pulled out his phone, activated the camera, and started photographing. First the power of attorney, multiple shots from different angles, then the house deed, zooming in on the property description, the legal language, my name on the title. He checked the bathroom door nervously, photographed everything again. His hands shook slightly as he arranged the documents back into their original position. 12 minutes of footage, all of it backed up to 3 separate cloud accounts. 3 weeks ago, I'd walked into Margaret Chen's office on Travis Street. She was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and a skeptical expression that reminded me of the better defense attorneys I'd faced in court. Mr. Moreno, you said on the phone, this was about property fraud. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. I sat down and opened my evidence folder. I need someone who understands property fraud and isn't afraid to file criminal charges when the time comes. I'm going to let them steal from me, and I need you to help me send them to prison for it. Her eyebrows rose. Mr. Moreno, what you're describing is entrapment if we're not careful, but if they act entirely on their own volition, and we simply document their choices. She leaned forward. I can work with that. It'll cost you though. This isn't a simple case. We spent 43 minutes reviewing everything, the photographs, the footage, the timeline of suspicious behavior. She took notes in shorthand. occasionally stopping me to ask clarifying questions. Then we protected the assets. I transferred my vintage car collection, 3 restored vehicles worth $120,000 total, into a newly formed LLC called Moreno Holdings, moved my investment portfolio, another $340,000 into the same structure, opened a new bank account, and transferred $180,000 in liquid savings, left $15,000 in my personal account, just enough for normal expenses, not suspiciously empty, and I left the house in my name, perfect bait, worth $580,000. They'll go for it, Margaret had said, signing the incorporation papers. Desperate people always do. I wrote her a check for $8,000. Her retainer, now sitting in the rental apartment the morning after their theft. I checked my phone. A text from Mr. Patterson, my neighbor, 3 houses down. Patrick taught high school English for 30 years before retiring. Observant. Careful. The message included a photo taken at 11 last night. Every light in my house blazing through the front window. Edwin carrying a cardboard box. Lucretia in the background, raising a wine glass toward the dining room chandelier I'd bought in 1998. Furniture rearranged slightly like they were already redecorating. Patrick's caption read, "Granville saw your truck gone this week. Everything okay? Your daughter and her husband were moving around inside pretty late last night. Looked like they were celebrating something. Want me to keep an eye on the place?" I typed back, "Thanks for watching out, Patrick. Everything's under control. I'd appreciate those extra eyes though. Let me know if anything else unusual happens." At 9:15, my phone rang. Margaret Chen, Granville. "We just got a gift." Her voice carried barely contained excitement. "Darlene Webb, the notary, just contacted our office. She notarized your supposed power of attorney 2 weeks ago. Never actually met you. And now she's nervous about the signature. She's willing to testify that she violated notary protocol because Edwin pressured her. This is solid. 2 weeks ago. That matched the timeline. Edwin and Lucretia had photographed the documents in January, forged my signature, and rushed to get it notarized before I returned from any trip. How soon can we file with the police?" I asked. 2 hours after Margaret's call, I stood outside the Harris County Police Headquarters on Risner Street. The building rose like a concrete monument to order in downtown Houston's maze of glass towers and parking structures. Margaret waited near the entrance, briefcase in hand, her dark suit crisp despite the February humidity. We exchanged brief nods. No need for conversation. We'd covered everything during her morning call. She'd do most of the talking initially. I'd provide technical details when needed. Keep it professional. Let the evidence speak. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as we passed through metal detectors. A death sergeant directed us to the 3rd floor, Economic Crimes Division. The elevator smelled like burnt coffee and contained 2 other passengers, a detective scrolling through his phone, a nervous civilian clutching documents,